Hello you beautiful people, Aaron here, back with another video. Today, the new Baizhu and Ganyu banners coming out. Let's see how good these banners are and their worth. But before we do, remember, like, comment, subscribe. Okay, now let's hop right into it. As always, we're going to start with the 5-star characters. This time with the newest in Baizhu. Baizhu is a new character, but with the help of leaks and theory crafting, I could tell y'all that he's quite fine. In fact, I have an entire pre-release analysis video on him already, which you could check out by clicking the box in the top right, and I will be putting out another more specific video about him later that I had to put on hold because they announced banners early. Anyway, Baizhu is a good defensive support with single target Dendro application and a Dendro reaction buff. He does have a lot, but it's generally not enough for him to be better than other units that we have right now or are getting in the future, including the 4-stars. In those spots that he is better, it's generally by less than 10%. You can usually get more from getting your favorite character's C2 or signature weapon over getting Baizhu, making him not that valuable. Is he good? Yes, but he's not much better in most situations than other characters would be in those situations. He also has the low Dendro application issue, making Nahida his biggest crutch, as he can't work in Bloom teams without her unless he's the driver. The only other thing that he has over other characters is the team-wide heal on his elemental skill, which, as far as I'm aware of, no one else has. This can be extremely beneficial in the next region that has an emphasis on healing and HP, but as of now, it along with Baizhu are not that useful. The same can be said with Ganyu. Ganyu has a checkered past, but has always been one of the best main DPS options in the game. She also happens to be the only cryo unit that got a straight up buff from Dendro's release, which heightened her melt team's competence. Though she does have a very high damage output, she still hasn't reached the same heights as the much more meta units like Ayaka, Raiden, and Alhaitham. Despite that, she's a pretty convenient pick, especially in the overworld where she can obliterate groups of enemies with ease. She also comes with a crap ton of innate crit rate and crit damage. This plus cryo resonance plus Blizzard Strayer makes her the easiest character in the game to reach a crit damage stat of 300% while still having 100% crit rate. She also comes with some sub-DPS capabilities, which makes her the best substitute for Shenhe and Ayaka Freeze teams. Her main downsides are her numbers and her inconvenient charged attack playstyle. Despite this though, she is also the only character in the game that doesn't have downtime, as her charge attacks can always be used and her burst has 100% uptime. However, if you want her, get her. She is an extremely convenient pick and one that I still use to this day, even over Ayaka. But let's just say you like these characters and you want constellations on them. Are they worth it, and by how much? Let's start with Baizhu's. The C1 grants him another skill cast, which applies 1 to 3 more applications of Dendro. It allows for another full heal on the party, and it decreases his energy recharge requirement by between 33 to 55%, depending on the weapon. To find constellation that slightly amplifies what he already does while making him easier to build, but that's it. His C2 is better though, as it grants Baizhu even better Dendro application that just requires him to be in the party and allows him to constantly heal up the entire team all on a 5-second cooldown. It's pretty good as it raises his convenience, but that's still all it does. Baizhu unfortunately doesn't have powerful constellations and instead just has convenient ones. Ganyu's are much stronger, though not compared to the constellations that we have on our 5-stars nowadays. Instead, they're much more like Baiju's, as they're all relatively convenient. Both Ganyu C1 and C2 grant her some good damage increases as well as some energy generation. If these were just some damage increases, her constellations would be rather bad, but the energy generation allows Ganyu to build into more damage, which can lead to a higher damage output. They both also provide supporting utility in the resistance shred from her C1 and the extra taunt in her C2. These things help make up for the fact that the damage increases Ganyu gets from her constellations aren't that much. The first constellation has the cryo resistance shred, which falls off more in freeze teams that have a crap ton of it. In these comps, you'll see an average damage increase at C1 of about 6.1%, while in melt teams, you'll see more of a 13.9% damage increase, just because the resistance shred is so much more beneficial. Unlike her C1, Ganyu C2 does not benefit more or less depending on the comp. Instead, they both gain about a 5.5% damage increase. This leads to a total damage increase for Ganyu of 12.1% in freeze teams and 20.1% in melt teams. With the 5-stars out of the way, let's move on to the 4-stars, going from best to worst. Fischl is first, as she is a mega powerhouse of a unit that, just like Xiangling, always gets buffs. She's a stupidly strong character that should be your go-to for off-field electro damage, since she outputs enough for her to be considered on par with a main DPS. She also happens to battery the entire team, and she is very easy to use too. Dendro also just mega buffed her since her extremely fast electro attacks benefit so much from the quicken aura. She's generally better than most other characters in the game, including the 5-stars on the banner. So yeah, this is Fischl's banner. Up next is Kaveh. Kaveh is a pretty valuable unit for those that don't have a Dendro driver. If you do have a Dendro driver, then his value drops tremendously, as he can only really excel in Fridge Fischl and Nilo teams. Hyperbloom and Burgeon doesn't mesh well with him either. He is a valuable party member, but his value decreases as you get other better options, where he will then only excel in certain teams. On to the final character, which is Candace. Candace is a character that relies on her C6 for relevance, as she is just a worse ewigen at normal attack buffing situations. Even then, she is only a good option for Nilo teams and Quadruple teams, where she has fierce competition in Kokomi, who could do the same thing that she does, but better and with healing. I have no idea why they designed her to act like this, but it honestly sucks. She underperforms almost everywhere, and in most teams, she is just a substitute. To sum it all up, this is a very underwhelming banner. Both Baizhu and Ganyu are pretty good, but are very, very replaceable. So they're much more units that you would get if you like convenience, or if you just like them. If you're actually looking for a powerful unit, then the only one here is Fischl, who's able to pump out a tremendous amount of damage while also providing some really valuable support to the entire team. If you want, she could also wield Tenacity and the Elegy of the End to act as a pretty valuable buffer. Is it her best playstyle? No, not at all, but it's still really good or a more supportive Fischl. Onto the weapon banner, which is probably even more underwhelming than the character banner. Let's start with the 5 stars and obviously the new one first. Jadefall Splendor is another terrible catalyst to add to the collection. It's just a stat stick for Baizhu, and that's it. It's not versatile enough to be usable on any other character, and it's also not that much better than Prototype Amber on Baizhu, which is sad because this is a craftable weapon. Amber is also a lot more versatile and offers even more healing capabilities, while Baiju's offers only stats that he can use. The other weapon is Amos Bow, which I'm sure everyone is sad to see. This weapon is a standard banner weapon that has been powercrept to hell and back even for Ganyu. The best Ganyu weapon is Aqua Simulacra. If you're looking for a specific team comp dependent weapon, Polar Star is best for Freeze and Hunter's Path is best for Melt. Amos Bow is still a good option for Ganyu, but just not that much better than the free-to-play options she has in the game. Not to mention, you could also get this off of any weapon banner and the standard banner, making this limited weapon banner incredibly unvaluable. Next, onto the 4 stars, which again will go from best to worst. Best is Favonius Lance. This is the best support polearm in the entire game, and it's still basically the only one available. This weapon, just like Fischl, is the reason why you're pulling on this banner. It is as much of a necessity as much as Kazuha is. Onto the next 2 weapons, which are Wandering Evenstar and Makhaira Aquamarine. Both of these weapons have the same passive and both have the same downside. Both of these weapons are best for characters that want to build full EM but still want attack. One of the issues is that the character would need a crap ton of elemental mastery to make the passive for this weapon useful, so it's not good on characters that want just some elemental mastery, like Yaimiko or Klee for Catalysts and Beidou or Chongyun for Claymores. So Wandering Evenstar would be great for Aggravate Nahida, for Sucrose, and for Lisa, but that's it. It requires such a high EM stat to work, and it also requires multiple copies of it, making it not too great. Makhaira Aquamarine also faces this downfall, except even worse. It's great with characters like Kaveh and non-Nilo teams, and it is also Sayu's best stat stick, but that's it. These weapons are good, but they need to be high refinements in order to be better than options already available, and they're such niche weapons that getting them is not a valuable decision to make. Next up is Sacrificial Bow, which, just like the last 2 weapons, is a very niche weapon. It's only for Diona, specifically for the major energy generation she would get, and for Kaveh, for the large amounts of Dendro she can apply with this weapon. Other than that, you don't want this weapon over Favonius Warbow. Then we have the Lion's Roar, which is a pretty good damaging option, but only really for Qilin and Alhaitham, and even then, it isn't even that much better for them compared to other options. To sum up this weapon banner, I would say it's probably even worse than the character banner. The main thing you're looking for here is Favonius Lance, and even then, it's going to appear again in the future, so why not just wait then? Everything else on here isn't valuable, and all get pretty easily outscaled. So for this banner phase, I would say that in total, this is definitely one of the worst banner sets we've ever had. I went back in time to check to see if it actually is the worst, and while I was able to find some that were relatively on par with this one, it was hard to find any that were strictly worse. Well, other than Release Zhongli's. But seriously, how the hell is any banner set supposed to be worse than that? Like, look at this. Who thought this was okay? Especially with Release Zhongli. So should you pull? I would recommend against it. This is definitely a major skip for anyone that wants to upgrade their account at all. Nothing here is even valuable, except if you're looking for a minor upgrade to your Nilo team. Other than that, there's nothing here. But now I want to hear your thoughts. Do you also think that these banners are one of the worst that we've ever received? Do you think I'm overreacting? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye!